Howdy, partner, and welcome to TomHanksgiving, the only Tom Hanks podcast worth its weight in gold. Oscar gold, that is. I'm your host, Elvis Kunesh, and today we are talking about Road to Perdition. I know last week we said we were going to do The Great Buck Howard, but there's been a slight mix-up in the schedule. I'll explain why in a moment. Hopefully this doesn't upset you. Hopefully you saw the tweet. So come back for Great Buck Howard next week, but today we're talking about Road to Perdition, 2002, directed by Sam Mendes, written by David Self, based on a graphic novel of the same name by Max Allan Collins, which was loosely based off of manga Lone Wolf and Cub. And I'm very excited today because I have a special guest in the studio, Mr. Henry Loevner.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. It's great to have you here.
This is very exciting.
And why don't you tell us a little bit why you're on the show today? You've got a very exciting project to plug?
So Elvis and I know each other from BuzzFeed. I am a video producer there and just finished a little video. I say it's a little video. It's actually very long for a BuzzFeed video.
It's like the longest BuzzFeed video ever.
It's 15 minutes long, which is for a BuzzFeed video is very long. Which is it's really just a vehicle for TomHanksgiving actually, since TomHanksgiving is very prominently featured in the video, and it's my favorite part of the video. But it's a video with Will Neff and Kelsey Dara, and it's called "When You're in a When you're a couple with trust issues."
Trust issues,
yeah. When you're a couple with trust issues, there were like 3 or 4 different titles.
There always are in BuzzFeed videos.
You don't even know. The weird thing about BuzzFeed videos is you literally do not know what the title of your video will be until like the day it comes out, because it has an algorithm that chooses it or whatever. So you give them like 4 options. But yeah.
What did you call it? What was your pet name for it?
I just called it Trust Issues.
That's a better title.
Yeah.
I know it's not searchable.
It's not viral, and Trust Issues is vague. It could be about maybe it's like A Few Good Men or something. You don't know what the video is about. When you're a couple with trust issues, it's a little clearer. I don't really know that it's going to perform all that well, to be honest, because it's so long. All the comments are like, why the fuck is this so long? But
it's a very different audience. But I gotta say, I've seen many BuzzFeed videos in my time. This is one of my absolute favorites.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm not even saying that just for the TomHanksgiving plug and cameo in there. It's very well shot. You've got you pull out great performances out of everybody, and like even the casting, you got fucking Ricky in there.
Oh yeah.
And you just know how to make Ricky do his great thing. It was a complete joy to watch.
Yeah. And, Ricky is a delight. There's some things Ricky can do exceptionally well. Like his whole thing in this, which is funny, is like his whole MO is like trying to get an apology, basically.
Yeah.
Which is funny for Ricky because Ricky's so nice. He doesn't want conflict and in real life. So I basically just he's just kind of playing himself, which is fun. So
yeah.
You did a good job.
The only other interesting thing about Ricky Sands is he's the only person I've met who's been like, Tom Hanks is overrated. So he's actually an enemy of this show, and I gotta try and get him on at some point.
What movie is he gonna talk about?
I don't know, but like it was the first we were on a shoot for the Try Guys, and he was driving, and I just mentioned I have a Tom Hanks podcast. He's like, he's kind of overrated, don't you think? And we just argued the whole time.
Funny. Oh my god. It's weird to say Tom Hanks is overrated because
it's like saying pizza's overrated.
Tom Hanks is the pizza of actors.
Or maybe ice cream is overrated.
I just don't even know, how many Oscars has Tom Hanks won?
2. He's been nominated for more, but he's won 2.
I feel like that is very reasonable for how many huge movies he's been in.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's done better performances than the movies he's won Oscars for, and particularly one of the ones we've done today.
Also, if you compare him to somebody like Meryl Streep, who's obviously very talented, but yet has been, the Academy loves her, right? Like, she's won I don't know how many times. And there are so many. I mean, I to call him overrated doesn't seem fair or accurate to me. But I mean, Ricky's entitled to his opinion. I don't know who his favorite actors are, but does he have a podcast?
Ricky? I don't think he does have a podcast.
He seems like he'd be a podcast guy.
I know. I mean, he'd be great. I'd love to get him on the show and have his dissenting opinion. There's a big tangent about Ricky says.
No, I mean he is deserving.
He
of a
is.
big
He
tangent.
is.
He is a man. He's a very mysterious guy, I think.
Yes, and of course, just to quick jump back to your video. I love every appearance by Creepy Charles.
Oh, thank you.
You're fantastic.
Well, I'm really good at acting in roles where I don't have to speak. As long as I don't open my mouth, I can be very convincing. So.
Yes, I still remember you as the magician in Joe's video. Amazing.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, all those characters, none of them speak. I think he says hello. I think he might say, I might have squeezed out a hello in that one. I'm not sure.
That's great. Even if you did, like, you couldn't notice it just based on the whole Shazam of your performance.
I don't know. I think people watching that video liked my dance moves, and then the moment I said hello, they were like, I'm not convinced. I don't think he really meant that hello. I don't buy his character anymore.
Oh, man. Well, if you want to see Henry plays Creepy Charles, check out the video. God damn, I gotta look at the title again.
When you're a couple.
When you're a couple with trust issues on BuzzFeed Yellow at YouTube. There'll be a link in the show notes. I'll tweet it out all over the place.
Sweet.
It's great, and if you want to see a universe in which TomHanksgiving is the most popular podcast, check it out.
Oh man, that was a delight. That was somewhat premeditated. Yeah, I guess I kind of knew going into it that we were going to do that, but the fact that it's you and D'Artagnan too.
I know. And I don't think have you talked to him about it being in there? Because I haven't told him it's going to be in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The idea that maybe he organically finds out that like no one tells him, he just is watching it and he hears his voice talking about Daryl Hannah's vagina. It really tickles me.
All right, since that is your wish, I won't mention that he's in this.
Yeah, but the thing is, then if he's gonna find it organically, maybe we need to like arrange things so he will watch it somehow. I don't know. I don't know how we could do that.
Well, we'll make it happen.
Because otherwise, it could be years, like before he stumbles upon this.
But he will, because this is gonna get big.
I don't think this is. It's long.
Well, let's transition to something that's going to get even bigger, and it is even longer. Let's talk about Road to Perdition.
Road to Perdition.
Why Road to Perdition? Why is this your choice?
Road to Perdition I don't know if it's it's like was one of my favorite movies when I was. Let's see, it came out in 2003. 2002, so I would have been 13 or 14. So yeah, when it came out, I was all about
the
this
age
movie.
of the boy in the film too.
Yes, I related more to the Tom Hanks character.
I always do.
The father, he's so relatable. I was all about this movie for whatever reason. I associate this movie with the movie Minority Report, and maybe they came out in the same summer or something. I just remember. For whatever reason, I associate those two, but nonetheless, it's a fantastic movie. It's extremely well shot, which is not something that I really considered until I rewatched it today, actually.
Yeah.
And I had always taken that for granted, but it is such a beautiful movie.
Every DP I know, like everybody, like Matt Miller at BuzzFeed and everything, like. This is like their favorite movie.
Yeah, no,
it's so beautiful.
It's incredible, and it's also very. I think the part of the reason I didn't realize that how beautiful it was before is, it's very sort of uninflected in a way, and what I mean by that is like you don't notice a lot of the. You don't notice the camera movements. They feel very natural. They don't take away and distract from the story and the character. I think it like. There are movies. Sometimes you'll watch a movie where there's a camera movement or a zoom or a whatever or a lighting effect that like is clearly just meant to be pretty and can be distracting. Perhaps it's deliberately distracting, so you don't realize that like the story isn't working or the performances aren't working. But in this case, it's like everything is in service of the story.
Yeah, it doesn't call attention to itself, and I think linking it with Minority Report makes sense too, because Spielberg is a master of that invisible filmmaking too.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
He has and I noticed in here I was paying attention to the shots with the camera movement, and yeah, it's almost always following action, and Spielberg is really good at that too.
Yeah, I mean, there are only a couple of moments where you really notice it. There's the push zoom, or what is it? It's called push zoom. Is that I forget what that.
Oh, the vertigo shot.
Yeah.
Underneath the L train. Yeah. But like that's
cool.
Again, it's calling attention to itself for a reason.
Because it's introducing the Jude Law's character as someone who's like an other, so fantastic.
Oh my god.
That and like I'm trying to think of some of the other instances, but yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
And you said it was one of your favorites. Has there just been better movies that you've seen since then, or has it fallen out of grace for any reason?
I mean, I haven't watched it in a while, so rewatching it was I'm excited about it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of thinking about the movie a little bit more, having rewatched it, I'm less excited than I once was. I think that, and I actually was like doing a little bit of research into the movie and reading about it. I think it is a beautiful movie, and I really do love Sam Mendes. Like American Beauty is fantastic. Interesting to hear that this is like based off of a graphic novel, which I hadn't realized until recently.
What would you, the briefest version of this story, what would you say it's about?
I mean, it's about a mob enforcer. He's like a hitman who
it's played by Tom Hanks.
Played by Tom Hanks in it was like 1931.
Mm-hmm.
He works for what's it, Mooney?
John Rooney.
Rooney.
Paul Newman's character in his last on-screen acting role.
Really? Is his last movie? That's
crazy. I think he did some voice work after this, but this was his last appearance.
So this mob boss with whom he has like this very, very close relationship. Paul Newman is basically a father figure to him. And he has a sort of a rivalry with Paul Newman's son, played by Daniel Craig. It's a fantastic role.
Everybody's in this movie. When I was watching the opening credits,
so
like,
good.
fuck, Tom Hanks, of course, I knew. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Daniel Craig, Paul Newman.
And it's also...
Even the Tooch is in this movie.
I know the Tooch when I saw him. And it's a small role.
Very small. Not like The Terminal at all.
Very different from The Terminal. In any case, so he has a rivalry with Daniel Craig, who's jealous of the fact that his father clearly favors Tom Hanks. So Daniel Craig arranges for Tom Hanks' murder, and in so doing, kills his wife and one of his two sons. So Tom Hanks and his other remaining son kind of go out on the lam and decide they're going to avenge the death of the mother and son by killing Daniel Craig's character.
There's a lot of bank robbing in the middle too.
A lot of bank robbing. Yeah, there's a lot of fun and games.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a revenge. I mean, it's a revenge movie.
It is a vengeance movie. Yeah. It's,
which is cool.
Not something you see from Hanks usually.
No, that's true. I mean, it's a very unique role for him in some ways. I think. Man, there's so many things to talk about. Yeah. I think there are a lot of also parallels in terms of the character between that of Sullivan. What's his name? Sullivan.
Michael Sullivan.
Michael Sullivan, and Hanks' character in Saving Private Ryan.
You're saying that you're drawing a comparison between John Miller, his performance in Saving Private Ryan, and here.
Yeah, well, just in the sense that, like, to the extent to which these two guys like have compartmentalized their home and family life with their career as a highly effective killer, right? I mean, Miller, is it Miller?
Yeah,
the Miller character is an exceptional soldier, right? And he refuses to talk about his family life when he's basically at work, when he's at war, because he tries to keep those two things distinct, and there is a sense that, much like Tom Hanks' character in Road
to Perdition?
Road to Perdition, that movie that I just watched. In Road to Perdition, he's somebody who is a war hero, right? He's come back after World War I, is now lethal, and needs to make money for his family, so he gets work as a contract killer. I think the parallel is that, like, the worry is for a guy like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan that he'll come home from World War II and like his identity will still be that of a soldier, as someone who's a killer in some respects. Right?
Yeah, he'll have lost his humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this movie, he basically has already accepted that there's a whole scene in the basement of the church with Paul Newman where he's like, they're all going to go to hell, but he can still save his son, is his point of view. That's his goal. And I think it's interesting, his work in this movie and that compartmentalizing, I think you can see it. I'm going to pull out two scenes. The first scene where we first see him, where he gets back from a job and he's dressing for dinner, and we see his son, also Michael Jr., spying on him and kind of sees the gun. and he's super intimidating, and he's just like
Gigantic.
He's gigantic. The kid calls him sir, and he's like, I'll be down. And he's like completely curt with this kid. But then the moment when they're at the funeral for Danny, which I realize is probably a guy he killed.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
But like just the moment where he's there with the son and he explains why the ice is there. It's like that for me was like a great little writing and performing scene, because there's no asking about the ice. It's all visual. He's just paying attention to it. And then it's like he's trying to be that family man with his son.
Well, that's what I think what makes this movie exceptional is the use of exposition is very subtle. A great example of this is the brother of the guy who's just been killed at the wake.
Oh, the Finn McGovern?
Finn, man, you remember this so good.
I just
Finn
watched
McGovern,
this
right?
morning.
Well, as did I. My brain's a piece of shit. So Finn McGovern. So Paul Newman's station in the town and his significance, because Finn McGovern basically accuses him during this little spiel at the wake of being, people treat like a god in this town. It's delivered as an accusation and as a criticism, but which distracts you from the fact that it's also narrative exposition. Right?
Yeah.
This is who this character is, and this is his standing in the community, and that's what the movie does so well. Like things are communicated visually, or if they are communicated in dialogue, it's done very subtly and with a lot of craft.
And it's still done within, generally speaking, character action. So it's not even really exposition. It's something you would say. And even like little bits of world building I love, like that you didn't need when he's first leaving the town. And he gives his son the gun, and he's still in the car. And he's like, if you don't hear back from me in like 6 minutes, go to the church, but don't go to Father Calloway.
Right.
It's like, because obviously there's a corrupt father there, but...
Well, there was something interesting. He says... Go to the He says something like, go to the Methodist church, not to Father Calloway,
which is probably obviously their church,
right? Yeah,
but that means he's crooked.
I didn't like take the time to really unpack what the significance of that was. But you mentioned that thing about the ice at the wake. I was like reading about this movie, and apparently this was a deliberate decision by Sam Mendes after having researched that they would use ice to preserve the body at a wake. Mm-hmm. That if you look closely, like almost all of the major like murder or confrontation scenes in the movie, basically death is always accompanied with water.
Yes.
I mean, did you notice it?
I did notice. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I had never put that together either. Like number of I guess we can give away spoilers, right?
Yeah. If you haven't seen this movie, I say this every podcast. You've done it wrong.
Yeah.
Listen to it afterward. But yeah, everybody dies in this movie.
Every
except for like 3 people and the dog. They didn't kill the dog.
Pretty much all the monsters die. Yeah. I mean, Daniel Craig is killed in the bathtub.
Great shot.
Beautiful. Yeah, so well done. You see it through the reflection of a mirror, too, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we're seeing people killed, it's either through a reflection or we just see another person, an observer's visual response to that, to the murder. So we don't see...
The scene in which Daniel Craig kills the family, and when the scene where the son
upstairs.
The son goes before he gets there, the son goes upstairs, and you just hear the shower drain dripping as he walks in. You don't see the bodies, there's no shot, and then when he goes upstairs, we stay on the son.
It's such a powerful moment.
It's so good.
It's way better than if he had followed. Yeah, I mean, hearing Tom Hanks howling upstairs.
Because if you watch that, it so quickly can become over the top.
Exactly.
But because it's off screen, it really hurts. And then you cut immediately to his 5 minutes later grief in the hallway.
And at that point,
works so well.
And Tom Hanks shakes it off so quickly too, because the character is just hard as a coffin nail, But yeah, I mean, several of the murder scenes happen during heavy rainstorms. Tom Hanks, of course, he dies at the end at a beachfront.
Even the movie starts with the sound of the waves. Yeah. So it's kind of sandwiched in there with this water. I love the sound design of this film.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm super well equipped to talk about, but if you just listen to this movie, and we're talking about how much visual storytelling there is going on, I think you could just listen to this movie and get a lot out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the use of sound when they choose to use silence as well. Particularly when the Paul Newman character is killed. At
Holy
the end,
shit!
There's a silent action sequence where Tom Hanks is shooting all of his bodyguards, and there's not a sound, and then we only hear the sound of his gun when he shoots Paul Newman.
Because that's the shot that affects him.
Yeah.
That's the one that he doesn't care. The other guys are faceless goons, but he's killing his own father essentially. In that scene. So it's painful for him too, and this an insane punctuation of that scene.
The bystanders are all watching through the windows.
That was haunting. I was like, holy fuck.
Kitty Genovese or something. That's
Yeah.
great. Beautiful movie. Is this the part we're supposed to criticize it now? That sucked.
Just to jump off that moment where everybody's looking down from the windows. This movie, there's something about the visual look besides the way it's just beautiful that I was noticing when I was watching it. And it's that so many of the shots are against a flat plane of background, but still have a depth because of either frames within frames or just really strong use of, I guess, character movement. But like so often it's not like shot where there's like a vanishing point in the distance. It's like just a portrait.
Frames within frames is a really good way of putting it. There are a lot of instances where we will see characters and the action play out through a door frame or through a window. Particularly through some of the montages, like there's a scene where Tom Hanks is jumping in the car that his son's driving. It's part of the montage.
Yeah.
And his son kind of doesn't stop at the right spot, right? And that all plays out through a window, and that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I hadn't realized that. What's his name? Conrad
L. Hall.
Yeah, who had posthumously won an Academy Award for this movie, which for the cinematography.
Well, it certainly deserved it.
Yeah.
They were kind of going for like Edward Hopper style, which he did the Nighthawks painting. And when you mentioned the windows, it was like that looks exactly like that Nighthawks.
Yeah. A lot of the lighting for the movie, I really noticed heavy use of you would have these little incandescent yellow incandescent bulbs indoors, but most of your light was your key light was just coming through, just blasting through the windows. This really soft gray winter light. So you always felt like you were in this kind of dark, cavernous indoor space with light coming in from the outside. You could really see, the last scene when they're on the beach is the first time you really see green, really colorful. This is the first time you ever really see that. And then immediately goes back inside the house where it's just blank white. Right?
Yeah, and he's trapped. Oh my god, talking about just beautiful shots when he gets killed.
Yeah, it really is.
You see the you can see the sun reaction, and you see Jude Law's reveal. This movie's so good. I knew that was coming, and I forgot about Jude Law.
Yeah.
And oh geez, he looked disgusting in this movie.
Yeah, he really did. You could even tell his fake teeth. He sometimes had a little bit of trouble talking. I don't know if you noticed that. I noticed it in the diner scene. He was kind of just really struggling to get the words out because he has these.
That's funny. I didn't notice that.
Yellow fucked up teeth.
I imagine they were fake. I didn't think they were true Jude Law.
Well, they also were very loyal to. There were so many little details about his character, like the fact that how much sugar he put in his coffee was he has fucking bad teeth.
It's insane. I don't have that bad of teeth.
Yeah, me too, dude. I had a fucking horchata coffee yesterday with more sugar than it's a milkshake. Anyway,
did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
The movie I've seen, I am very sorry to say that I've never seen the TV show, which is a shame because I know it's what's his face. The director,
Whedon.
Whedon. Yeah, and I know it's supposed to be fantastic.
It's wonderful. Sadly, no Tom Hanks, but I gotta say, just as a big fan of Buffy, the actor who played Mayor Wilkins from the amazing season 3 in Buffy, Harry Grainer, is excellent as this bit part as one of the bankers in the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he gets robbed, but he's the first guy who gets robbed by Tom Hanks.
Oh.
He's delightful.
What does he say? Does he say anything to Tom Hanks?
Yeah, they speak. It's basically he's...
it's Capone's money.
Yeah,
does he say that? Do you know who you're robbing? Or
yeah, you know who you're robbing, and then he gives him the money and to stay kind of quiet.
Interesting. I remember that.
And then when James Marsters of Spike fame from the show showed up to be in a BuzzFeed video, I asked him what his favorite Tom Hanks movie was, and he said it was Road to Perdition.
Oh,
so
cool.
Boom.
That's interesting. Was there a reason why you asked? You just asked him Was there any lead up to that? Would you be like, hey, what's your favorite Tom Hanks movie?
Well, I was just making a point of asking celebrities their favorite Tom Hanks movies.
What anything catch you up on that movie where you're like, not for me.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on. I do want to talk about some more fun stuff, specifically how funny the movie gets in the middle.
There's some good comedy, dude.
It's insane in how there's almost this impetus for working directors today where it's like we have to maintain a tone, but you don't. If you're good, you can kind of jump around in your tone because the tone of your movie. I mean, I don't want to declare a rule, but I believe that the tone of your movie should reflect what the characters are going through. In the moment,
life does not have one tone.
That's why I love Edgar Wright films because the stylization of the whole movie is coming out of what the character's point of view is in that moment.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's not that stylized in this movie. But when he's teaching his son to drive and they're getting on these capers, it's just fucking fun and.
You really need that though, because I think in order to demonstrate like the emotional bond that they're developing, because they're kind of strangers when the movie begins.
Yeah,
and he doesn't even know like he's like, what are you interested in? You know?
Yeah, what do you like? Yeah, they talk about that.
Like in order to demonstrate that, you just need conflict, like a little bit of conflict-free like moments of levity. Where it's just fun, you know, for the two characters to just be,
and you really get to see these two as father and son, like without the crazy circumstance there, and I just love that whole scene. I mean, it's a great piece of a whole. I'm just raving about this movie. I'm sorry. You wanted to jump to criticisms?
No, we don't have to. That seems so negative. You're like, all right,
I have
get that out of the way.
No,
but I don't know. I mean, there are parts of the movie that still feel. So here's something interesting. Here's one observation that I made about the movie is it opens much in the same way that American Beauty does. It opens by telling you that the protagonist of the movie is going to die.
Yes.
There are a lot of parallels between this.
Yeah, actually, I did want to talk about that specifically.
I think that I was reading. I'll have to cite this source because it's not a completely original idea. But I was reading a review of the movie by Roger Ebert, and he was talking about. He was comparing it to The Godfather, and he made this point that he thought that this movie felt more like a Greek tragedy in comparison to, say, Shakespearean tragedy or The Godfather, where the ending felt inevitable. It felt inevitable that. Tom Hanks was going to die, but that he was going to get his revenge, but in so doing was going to die.
Yeah.
And you really know that you pretty much know that the son is going to survive, right? And how it felt kind of divorced from choice, and it felt as though Tom Hanks's character was so hell-bent on getting his revenge because we understood it to be his wife, and yet we never really... This is something more of what I observed, is that we never really appreciated his relationship with his wife.
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's a great actress, does nothing in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, or his other son who gets killed. I mean, like...
He's good at maths.
Yeah, he's good at maths. I mean, he's very good at maths. But the fact remains, like, you get really far on the audience's appreciation of, like, okay... Like, son and wife, we know what that means for them to get killed. This is a just cause for him to now go and try to kill Daniel Craig, potentially at risk to his own son. Really, in the best interest of his son, he should just leave. Right?
Exactly. He's given every opportunity to walk away, and like Paul Newman loves this guy.
Yeah.
And is willing to, like, if you just leave, we're not going to come after you. Stanley Tucci's character is willing to protect him as long as he doesn't go after Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
And it's really condemning, and I like how it's so condemning of the path of vengeance, because
it is.
It glorifies it in a certain way, but
it's tough because I feel like it doesn't properly frame the moral dilemma of Tom Hanks's moral dilemma of, if I seek vengeance, I jeopardize the life of my son. It seemed to be the lesson that Tom Hanks, in seeking vengeance, like had to sacrifice his own life, right? I don't think that the movie ever really took into full account that Tom Hanks was risking his son's life. Like he was bringing into gunfights.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
I mean, he was making him a criminal even on the smallest scale with the bank robbery.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of cost that he could have lost more.
Right. I mean,
actually, and I wonder now just surface level thinking about it, should it have been his son that got shot when they were in the farm sequence so he could have dealt with that?
Yeah, I think it probably should have, right? Because what kept getting thrown into Tom Hanks's way were not moral challenges for the most part, but rather like practical challenges.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, I've been shot, I need to recuperate so I can rethink my strategy on how to kill Daniel Craig, right? Mm-hmm. He just was hit with all of these obstacles to his strategy, to his mission. But rarely was he faced with these fundamental moral decisions, and it was sort of a disappointment because I think like if they had really explored his relationship with Jennifer Jason Leigh and his other son, then we would have had more empathy for his loss, and therefore when it came time for him to decide between vengeance and potentially risking and preserving his son's life or really looking out for the best interest of his son, we would really understand. Okay, like. He has this moral dilemma, but he's so broken up about his wife and son, because we know what that relationship is, that we understand why he's still seeking vengeance.
Yeah, and I think we can put into our own interpretation of why, because like I'm sure those two characters, his wife and his son, for him represent like that compartment that he is the family man, that he is just a nice that he the life he wants his sons to have.
Yeah,
but it's not really textually there, and I think that's something having watched it this morning I did not pick up. So
yeah, or the idea when he talks to his son about like his son's like, you think this is my fault, and he's like, no, it's not your fault. And he almost gets right up to the point of saying it's my fault.
He doesn't say it,
but he doesn't say it, and I think the problem is that that's one of the flaws of the movie. I think of the story is that Tom Hanks his character never wrestles with the problem of my wife and son's blood is on my hands because I chose a life of crime.
I do think that in that scene you mentioned where he's like, it's not your fault. I think he knows it's his fault.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out and say it because I think that's part of his character. It's like he can't admit it. It's almost like, because if he did, how has he been doing this entire time?
Yeah. It's suggested.
But I don't, that specific thing I don't see as necessarily a failing of the movie. I see it as a intentional failing of the character. But you're right that it's not fully explained. Because a true tragedy would have been he gets his revenge but then loses his other son. And he lives.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to throw this in there, a bit of trivia, the comic book it's based on, he dies and then the son goes to the old couple, just like in the movie, and they're already dead, and then someone kills the son.
Oh my god!
I don't like that ending at all because
that's horrible.
It just seems just grim for grim. But
yeah, I like the ending you just described though of Tom Hanks living. I mean, I think also, if you look at what is his character arc? His arc isn't quite as strong as that of his son, right? His son makes the decision not to kill the Jude Law character.
Yeah.
I think that also. That felt a little bit weak to me. I thought that it was sort of a lost opportunity for the son to have an opportunity to kill Daniel Craig and not being able to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that would have been. I mean, and Daniel Craig he's a much more personal connection anyway for both characters.
They know each other, or even Paul Newman for that matter.
Yeah,
I think
it makes sense that Tom Hanks kills Paul Newman. But.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I agree. But the Jude Law character is so subhuman, and clearly the kid's life is at stake. I think any rational person would recognize that the son killing the Jude Law character is a pretty acceptable
Yeah, it's like the Joker shows up, you're gonna kill the Joker unless you're fucking Batman.
I mean, I'm not saying that anyone would be able to pull the trigger. I'm just saying that it's not as the question at stake for the son was, is he going to pursue this life of crime? But the actual moral dilemma in the moment was not, will I pursue a life of crime and violence, or will I pursue a kind of a sober moral existence. It was like, am I gonna fucking shoot this crazy psycho who's about to kill me?
Who will kill me no matter what?
Yeah, he's like the fucking Friday the 13th or something.
Yeah,
you gotta shoot that dude.
Yeah, that's true. That really kind of de-emphasizes the moral quandary and kind of leaves it a little flatter. It's still good, but as a story, it kind of breaks apart there at the end. And actually, I wonder if it has to do with something with the central question of the movie and then the question the movie asks being different. Yeah. Because going back to the opening voiceover, the movie seems to be asking, or it literally asks, is Michael... People ask me, my father, is Michael Sullivan a good man, or is there no good in him? And it ends with like, oh, he's just my father. But that doesn't seem to be what the movie's really asking.
Well, I think,
because the central, we're not worried is like, is Tom Hanks' character good or bad? It's really about the son.
I completely agree. I mean, I think that what you described, the conversation between Paul Newman and Tom Hanks in the basement, sums up what the circumstances are. It's that Tom Hanks' character is, while he has many redeeming qualities, particularly that he's loyal to his family, everyone's fucking loyal to their family. Like, it takes a big person to not be vindictive towards people with whom you don't have a personal connection. And Tom Hanks' character, while he does not delight in the suffering of others like Jude Law, he's not a psychopath. He is amoral. And so Tom Hanks' his sort of moral character is not what you described. It's not the subject in question. It's what is going to befall the son. Yeah. And while they do answer that question in an albeit like slightly disappointing way,
I never touched a gun again. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but the what you were saying about like he asks this question at the beginning and the end, like, oh, like people ask me about my father, is he a good man? It's like, well, it's not really it's like, what is the question of this movie? What
is it an intentional misdirection of the movie, or is it just a bad question to ask?
I think it was just honestly, to me, it just feels like a bobble. Like it just feels like
because even the voiceover itself doesn't seem necessary.
It isn't,
and I don't like. I know voiceover is the easiest thing to shit on, and most of the time it is used poorly. And I think there's lots of great voiceover that I try to defend, but here it didn't really bring anything to the picture for me.
Exactly. I mean,
especially with the note that question was
totally
all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think voiceover is useful in order to underline themes that might not otherwise be apparent to the audience. And in this case, I mean, it seems like it was raising this question that like it was almost like an unintentional misdirect or something. Like it's not. It just seemed it's unnecessary. I don't think it really added much. Yeah, I mean, that being said, it's still like a very satisfying movie. It's just like those particular points are just it's almost there.
It's like, so close.
It's so it could have been like an even stronger movie, and it just missed this like the fundamental like you need. I think for a really good story, you just need moral dilemma. Like you need a character to come right up to the brink of making a choice.
The craft in this film is so good that
you don't notice.
And I don't want to say that because I feel like that draws a comparison to another very popular director who makes his movies very beautiful.
Yeah, and I know you're talking about.
Yeah, but it doesn't maybe have any drama or substance. Because that's not what's going on in this movie, I don't think.
But you're talking about S. Wanderson?
No. I was going for Inarritu. Birdman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Wes Anderson.
No, Wes Anderson is not my favorite director either, but I don't know if I'd lay the same criticism.
I mean, I like Wes Anderson. His movies are beautiful, but they're completely, like, superficial. Like, there's no substance.
He's never worked with Tom Hanks. So, see, that's probably why I'm not as familiar with his stuff either.
He's never worked with Tom Hanks. Inarritu, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Like, the guy knows how to make a beautiful image, but none of the images actually say anything about the story we're watching.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I heard an interview with Harmony Korine recently. You know Harmony Korine?
Trash Humpers and Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
Another Spring Breakers, a movie I watched and recognized is incredible. Hated it.
Oh, interesting. I still haven't seen it. I got to check it out.
it will leave an impression on you,
Yeah. Well,
whether or not you like it or not.
So I heard an interview with him recently where he was talking about this idea of what is the point of watching a movie, right? Like, what is the intention of the director?
Mm-hmm.
What is the intention of the writer? For some people, it's to tell a very clear story that has a very specific thematic significance. It's trying to tell you, give you a lesson, right? It's like an allegory.
Yeah.
For some people, movies are allegories. For some people, it's simply a matter of relating to the character and finding when you can relate to the character, it validates something about yourself, and there's value in there. For him, he's like, I just want my movies to give people a feeling. And it doesn't need to be a feeling that's something that they can easily express of a really clear takeaway. This is what the movie's about. I just want to give people a feeling. His comparison was to electronic music versus, say, listening to a Joan Baez song or a pop song, right? Pop song's even better example, right? You listen to a song by Maroon 5. This is a song about breakups. This is what this is the message is very clear.
It's tangibly applicable to a specific part of your life. It's like, I want to listen to a song about breakups because I'm feeling sad.
It's a very specific point of view. It has a thesis. It's
you don't have to interpret it.
Right. It doesn't require a lot of interpretation. There are some movies that require additional interpretation, but may still have some sort of thesis underneath. And then, in case of Harmony Korine, he's just like in electronic music. He just makes the comparison. I want my movies give people a feeling the way that certain types of music give you a feeling, but it's a feeling that there's no intellectualization of that feeling. It's just a feeling.
And it's all emotional or physical or
which is
in the gut. No, and I love, one of my favorite things is about movies is that a movie can be anything. It doesn't have to have a good script or anything. I mean, like, it should have a good script if that's what it's doing. If it's a movie more like Spring Breakers, which, while not a movie I personally enjoyed, I recognize as a well-done piece of art. It just wasn't for me. It completely succeeds in not being like a scripted narrative. It's not a narrative thing, despite having some story elements.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's hard for me to talk about this movie without having seen it, but it's interesting that you would describe Spring Breakers as a movie that you don't like, but recognize the craft.
It took me a while to get to this point.
After many arguments.
Not necessarily argument, just in terms of like, there's been a lot of movies where I know a movie I've seen is bad, and I won't like that's a piece of shit. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then there's movies where it's like I gotta recognize that it's good, but it didn't work for me. Or even if it did, maybe it evoked a feeling, so I guess it worked. It just was not a positive one.
Yeah, well, I think you raised an interesting point. It's this idea of craft as the ability to, in my mind, craft is the ability to translate an idea, what the director has in his head, or her head, into the work, right? So a director with impeccable craft has an idea for a film, a very specific idea, and the movie will come to reflect that idea almost perfectly. Without craft, you have an idea for a movie, but you can't execute it. So I think it seems like the point you're driving at is that Harmony Korine has a strong craft. He has executed on this idea of what he wanted for Spring Breakers. It's simply not the idea or the kind of movie that you are really interested in watching.
People, like the greatest chefs in the world, can put together the most impeccable sushi dish ever.
Yeah.
And I can recognize it's insane. I'm gonna think it's disgusting.
That's a great example, right? I mean, and then if you see, what catches me about Road to Perdition is that I think that it was striving to tell a particular type of story. And
it's so close.
And it's so close, but it's through just a little dimple in the craft that it didn't reach its full potential.
Yeah.
Which is really tough to say because ultimately it's also a movie that like any director would be that is a once in a lifetime kind of film would be a once in a lifetime kind of film for anybody.
Yeah.
But we only held Sam Mendes to such a high standard because he is like
He's
a
Sam Mendes.
master. You know?
I mean, that's like fucking people like snoozing over Bridge of Spies this year. It's insanely good. Spielberg is doing some of his best work he's ever done. But because it's Spielberg, like if this had been a young director, people would have lost their shit. But it's like we've come to expect masterwork from these people, from Sam Mendes, from Spielberg, from Tom Hanks. And here he is giving one of his best performances I think we've ever seen.
So good.
And I think jumping all the way back to that scene where he's talking about, or we were talking about, where they're in the basement and they're talking about how they're all killers, they're all murderers and bad men, they're all going to go to hell. Again, just in terms of pure casting, we always like to talk about why you would put Tom Hanks in this movie. When we talked about the Da Vinci Code last time, we were like, we put Tom Hanks in this movie because the character of Robert Langdon is pretty flat. There's nothing there. So let's throw in Tom Hanks so he gets a nice paycheck.
He looks like Harrison Ford. I remember that from the book, right? It says he looks like Harrison Ford. Yeah.
It does not did not translate. Yeah. But you put in Tom Hanks because it's like, oh, there's something like innately likable about him.
Yeah.
And you use that to a very specific purpose in this film with the fact that this guy is amoral. He is a killer. He's a bad dude, but Tom Hanks really brings that sliver of humanity and that goodness of the father-son relationship to it. And I do think it's one of his best performances we've ever seen.
I agree. And that...
He even made the Walt Disney mustache work this time.
Yeah, he does. I didn't second guess it. I didn't say that is disgusting. I just accepted it, and I was totally cool with it.
I know. And it's pretty bad when you think about it. It's like it could have been the fucking hair from the Da Vinci Code, but no, it totally works.
Oh, God. You know, that you bring up another point about this movie that I think is one of its strongest features is I have not read the script, so I can't speak to whether this is Sam Mendes' doing or the writer. Mm-hmm. So it's the writer. It finds a way to humanize every character, maybe with the exception of Jude Law.
Yeah.
But even Jude Law, we do understand his psychology. My favorite instance of this is the bouncer he's the bag man or whatever in the nightclub. Like he has that's a fucking juicy role, right? Out of nowhere. Like that,
yeah, he just makes a whole story for himself.
That scene could so easily have just been Tom Hanks shows up at this club, he hands over the note, the guy tries to take a shot at him, and Tom Hanks kills him. But instead, we give
Kevin Chamberlain, by the way.
Oh, you have his name right.
I thought he was really good, so I wrote it down.
Yeah, he has his moment, and what the reason why that is so effective is because it's the only, I think it's more than any other moment in the movie is one in which you see like the true moral depravity of Tom Hanks' of the character's work, is that he has at one moment this very kind of just like warm moment with this guy who's clearly not,
who respects him.
Yeah, he's like a good,
excited to see him.
Like, you know, for all we know, is like a pretty good guy.
Yeah,
and
I mean, he wants to be a hitman, yes, but
I think he wants to be a bodyguard.
I guess that's true. He did say bodyguard.
I mean,
that doesn't involve killing.
In like the pantheon of baddies in this movie, from Jude Law to Daniel Craig to this guy. This guy's like one of the nicer guys in the movie.
It's true.
Every character is a monster.
We're grading on a curve here.
Yeah, so he's a pretty nice guy, and they found a way to humanize him. I would say even Daniel Craig, right? Daniel Craig's motivations are very relatable, I thought. Like, we can appreciate his jealousy of Tom Hanks.
When he leaves with Tom Hanks, and we just hold on that shot of Daniel Craig, and it's a slow push in, and then he's in focus, and then we rack to Tom and Newman in the background, and they're like, he's got his arm over his shoulder. He's clearly the favored son, quote unquote. And then we hold on their focus until they go right behind his head, and we're back on Daniel Craig. So it's like, it's literally like he's in their head, and it's just burning him up. So that's why he's got to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, is there ever a moment in which Daniel Craig says, like, I am jealous of Tom Hanks, like of my father's love?
No, it's all. I swear, it's all
right?
visual. Yeah.
Yeah, the moment when they're playing the piano and the camera pushes onto him and he's like holding that smile.
It's so fucking hysterical.
Yeah. It's really.
By the way, it's maybe the second best Tom Hanks piano scene we've seen. With
second best, yeah. Can you imagine if they had decided to play the piano on the floor?
I was kind of hoping they were going to play Heart and Soul.
I think, but that's what when you were talking about those moments of levity, That to me makes the movie special because it's not overwrought and it doesn't become melodrama. And it could have so easily become melodramatic and so driven by cliche. And yet, because it finds those moments where the characters don't take themselves too seriously, you feel like they're real people. They don't become these caricatures. And that's one of the merits of this movie is it never goes for the easy mobster cliche of Robert De Niro in The Untouchables taking out the baseball bat and beating the guy over the head or whatever as Al Capone. It felt real.
And actually, to its extreme credit, because probably the biggest genre of things that just like there's this wall between me and there is mobster movies. It's just not something I usually get into.
I agree. Well, I think the biggest reason why it stands out is because it does not. I believe it does not fetishize violence.
No, and in fact, you mentioned how brutal the scene with the where he kills the bouncer and the club owner, I guess. That is like literally the most gory scene in the film, and it's punctual in that way. It's not excessive because it's like,
fast.
Cool.
Yeah, it could have been this like scene where he grabs the gun and then he picks up a chair and hits the guy with it. Could have been an action scene, and it never plays anything for cheap thrills. I mean, you often don't see the person getting shot. The violence is gory, and it's dark, and it's not. It does not feel like a gore fest in a kind of way that would appeal to I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. You know what I'm saying?
It's not appeal to
a teenage audience. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Where the violence is, but I think
cartoonish.
Exactly. Tarantino violence is cartoonish and over the top to excess for a purpose. So that way it's distanced enough from reality that we can enjoy it on a visceral level.
Yeah.
They go realistic with it, so it's punishing when we see the violence.
It's really brutal. And that to me, I think, is why, I also agree. And I have a lot of friends who love mobster movies. They love all of Scorsese's work and any mobster movie they love. And to me, I just don't get into it. And I think it's because a lot of the interest in mobster movies is because of lifestyle envy, I think.
Yeah.
And, you'll see this even, like Scorsese movies have a lot of this where Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas, there are these kind of montage moments where you are vicariously enjoying the lifestyle of the mobster, and there is he has a clear fascination with that lifestyle.
Yeah. To Scorsese's credit, I do think, generally speaking, he is criticizing.
Oh, of course. He is, but I think there is still an underlying. He appreciates the allure.
Yeah. But it's certainly a different level than Scarface, which is a movie I've never enjoyed.
Oh, God, yeah.
Can't stand Scarface.
Jesus Christ. In any case, I think, this movie does not romanticize the life of these criminals.
No.
Unlike a lot of other monster movies. And I think, to me, that's why it's so appealing. Let me ask you a question about Tom Hanks. Now, I'm trying to think of... you are the sensei.
Yes.
I am trying to think of a movie... In my mind, I can't think of anything that he has done in the indie world. Which is interesting, because most, even big actors, will explore that.
Yeah.
And I also can't... Nothing comes to mind of a film he's done, like a hyper-stylized movie in which, you see... say Breaking of the Fourth Wall, or they tend to take themselves somewhat seriously.
Right.
Exceptions being The Burbs is satire.
The other Tom Hanks movie I'm thinking that it has the most in common with in terms of how I feel about it is actually going to be The Burbs.
Oh, interesting.
And that is a little tease for an upcoming episode. I don't want to get into it now. Obviously, there's been so much to say about this movie. It is great, despite the fact that it maybe doesn't quite hit home. So if you haven't seen it yet, god damn it, you're doing it wrong. But check it out again. It's absolutely worth your time. Henry, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This has been a delight.
It's been a thrill talking with you. You're great. Maybe we'll have to have you back on.
Thank you.
Check out BuzzFeed Yellow when you're a couple with trust issues, or go to BuzzFeed.com/Henry Loevner and Watch all of his videos. They're all fucking great.
Can we read one comment from this?
Yeah.
I just there's so many horrible comments.
YouTube comments are
I
the
fucking
worst.
love. You should just do a podcast about YouTube comments.
I'm sure there's already like 9.
Oh yeah, it's kind of bothering me a lot that there isn't a fitted sheet on the bench.
There's a lot of people who commented about the
I
fitted
know.
sheet.
Like there was a sheet. It just gets knocked off in the process of their wrestling, and people just freaked out. It's like that's people. YouTube comments are so insane.
That's a weird thing for someone to freak out about.
It's also interesting because like I recognize YouTube comments are insane, but a lot of people that we work with are like, well, the comments said this about the video, so next time when I make a video, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, people are morons. Don't listen to those commenters.
Yeah, and it's like the smallest vocal fraction of the viewers anyway, and
like Donald Trump is the Republican nominee for going to be the Republican Party's nominee for president. Like, let's not give too much stock to the hoi polloi. You know what I mean?
So check out the video, check out the comments. Check out all his stuff. Do you have a social media? Where can people find you? Or do you not want the attention?
I don't really have any social media.
All right, you can't find Henry. Check out his videos, though.
You can watch my videos if you're into that kind of thing.
But you can follow me at Elvis Kunesh everywhere. I'm a whore for social media.
That's good.
And if you want, of course, to follow the show at tomhankspod. If you're following it, you knew that we changed the schedule up this week, which is why we're going to be doing The Great Buck Howard next week. That'll be our next show, so come back for that. I haven't asked for, we're going along, I haven't asked for a review or a rate or anything on iTunes in a while, so do that. That'd be great. And if you have if you just tell a friend about the show, and if you don't have any friends, you've got a friend in me. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening.
Tom Hanks, we fell in love with you, Tom Hanks. Just like so many do deeply, because you made us smile, and your great on-screen style. So that's why we give thanks, 'cause you got a friend in Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks.
We should watch Larry Crown. I haven't seen it, but it looks terrible.
It does.